formula for playing blues solos. And in this video, all of the scales and progressions are going to be in the key of E. So to start, we would go to our foundation, which is the minor blues scale. And I don't want to spend too much time on this because there's plenty of other videos out there already on this topic, and I wanted to get into some stuff that's more advanced. But first, we do have to show this. So it's the minor pentatonic scale with the flatted fifth, and the main thing I want to point out right now on this, while we're here, is this is the note that's going to stand out the most. As you become more familiar with the scale, you'll be able to hear that note right away. It's the one that's outside the standard key. And this is a common theme with blues. There's going to be one note that pretty clearly stands outside of the scale, and this is going to be the one that gives it that bluesy sound. And this is one reason why instead of playing the note outright, you'll often just bend the note in front of it a half step into it. And this tactic allows that note to not punch you in the face quite as hard. It's a little bit of a softer landing. So that being said, let's move on to the Dorian mode. Now the Dorian mode is your minor scale with a major sixth. This is the most important note. This is the note that stands out in Dorian. It's kind of your signature Dorian note. And it's what gives the Dorian mode a slightly happier sound than your average minor scale, because you're mixing a major note in with the minor scale. So to show this, let's play a little blues shuffle in the background, and that would look like this tab here, a very common pattern in 12-bar blues. And in the one, in the key of E, we have this. And if you take a look at this pattern, you have an E power chord, then you have the major sixth, which is that Dorian note we had talked about, and then you have the minor seventh. So at first glance, these notes do appear to be in the Dorian mode. Then when you move on to the 4, and all of these notes are in Dorian as well, then moving on to the 5. So we start out with a B power chord, but then we move up to a G sharp, which is a major third. And this note is not in Dorian. So now we have hit one note that is outside of Dorian, and it's actually part of the major scale. And this combination of the minor third with the major third is a common riff you see in a lot of different blues progressions or blues pieces. It's even been used quite a bit in popular music. You can see it in the song Day Tripper by the Beatles, or Let's Get It Up by AC/DC, Pretty Woman by Roy Orbison. And they took that from a lot of really old blues pieces. And here's just a quick demonstration of how you can do that. And there's many different combinations you can do with these notes, but you can definitely tell it has a really bluesy sound to it. So now let's do an exercise where we use all of this. So just a quick recap, we have the minor blues scale as our base. From there we added on the Dorian mode, and now we have a major third put in with that. And for this exercise, we're just going to stay on the first part of the blues shuffle, and I'm going to have this playing in the background, and then I want you to play along with me the following tab. So we're just walking down the Dorian mode, and then I'm going down to that open G, then hammering onto the E on the D string. Once you're comfortable with that, let's now add that blues note back in there. So we'll do the Dorian walk down, and then that blues pull up into that flatted fifth. Alright, now let's go ahead and bend our minor third up a half step so it hits the major third, and then just walk back down the Dorian like this tab here. And of course, once you're comfortable with all of this, use these notes that we've been talking about and improvise some solos of your own. Let's go a little deeper on this. A lot of old school 12-bar blues progressions were built off the dominant 7th chord. So you'd have your 1, 4, and 5, but they'd all be in the form of a dominant 7th. And when you take a look at a dominant 7th, you have the major 3rd, but you have a minor 7th. It's kind of a strange sounding chord, and a lot of this is because we're mixing major and minor, which, as you're probably starting to see, is a really common theme of the blues. And if you quickly look at each dominant 7th, our 1, 4, and 5, for the E, we have that major 3rd that we've been talking about. If you go to the 4, which is our A dominant 7th, you can see that C sharp, which is that Dorian note, the major 6th that we were talking about earlier. And then when you move to the 5, which is the B dominant 7, we now have a D sharp, which this in E would be a major 7th. So now we have another note we could add in here. And there it is. This completes the formula. So to recap this, we've taken the Dorian mode, we've added that blues note, that flatted 5th from the minor blues scale, and now we've added 2 different major intervals as well, which actually now at this point, with the major 3rd and major 7th added to Dorian, we now have all of the notes from the major scale as well. So really what we've done is we've combined the minor blues scale with the Dorian mode and the major scale. And of course, we must move on to another exercise. So take a look at this tab here. We're going to bend the minor 7th up into the major 7th, the same way we did that with the minor 3rd into the major 3rd before. And then there's a little hybrid picking. Here's a little bonus for you. This is an awesome technique for playing solos. We're going to bend back up into that blues note and hybrid pick the E and G strings open. So this concludes the lesson here. And one question I get a lot from my students when I show them this is, how should you go about using all of these notes? Because really, there's only 2 intervals we're not using on this entire spectrum. So how do you go about choosing which ones to hit during your solos? And this is where your own personal creativity has to come into play. There is no formula to tell you which notes to hit in every single situation. That's the beauty of playing guitar and playing solos, is it's going to be your own personal take on things. But what I would say is, if the backing chord progressions that you're soloing over are made up primarily of major triads, you would probably want to lean heavier into the major intervals that we discussed. Whereas if the backing chords are minor, you'd probably want to veer more towards the minor intervals. And of course, I do want to stress that this is a formula for playing the blues, not the formula. There are an infinite amount of ways you can go about this. There's no one way to do it. I've once heard it said that there are no wrong notes in blues. And although I don't entirely agree with that, I can see their point. I mean, there is no one way to go about this. And as you can see, there are so many notes you can choose from. It would be impossible to tell you that this is a rigid formula you must follow in every situation. That's just not how the blues work. All right. Thank you for watching this video. You know the routine, like and subscribe. And remember to head over to guitarcram.com. I've got openings for one-on-one lessons over Skype. And also there is a free beginner course that I offer there as well. Just send me a message if you're interested in that. And leave a comment below. Let me know if there's any other topics you want me to make a video on. And I will talk to you soon.